Have you ever wondered what loot cards are bad and good? Have you ever wondered what loot card to use when? Have you ever wondered if you have a good hand, but you're not really that sure because you're not really familiar with some of the loot cards in your hand? Well, this is the video for you. Sit back, grab some popcorn, this might be a long one. First up, we have the penny, and let's rip this band-aid off early. This is the worst loot card in the game, hands down. Using a whole loot play to gain a single penny is nothing short of a massive waste. The only situation in which penny is viable to use is if you need to buy something this second and have no other options. Penny's real use is to sit in your hand and either get stolen by accident by another player or sacrificed via items or the death penalty. Don't use this. Seriously. F tier. Next up is a similar case, 2 cents. This card is only slightly more viable than penny, and it has the same use case as it. If you're questioning when the cent cards are worth it to play, don't worry, I'll explain it pretty soon. For now, just know that this card is slightly more worth it to play than penny is, as in, unlike penny, if I had nothing better, I would still play the 2 cents. Still technically not worth it, but you know, whatever. D tier. 3 cents. Now we can actually explain the loot card to cents ratio, and by that I mean, how many cents is a loot card worth? Using these 3 cards as an example, a random loot card is worth about 3 or 4 cents. This means that using a loot play to gain 3 or 4 cents is, by definition, worth it. So yeah, playing 3 cents to gain some money isn't a half bad idea, C tier. Okay, I kinda already explained why 4 cents is a worth it card, but I guess since I have another segment, I'll explain a good time to use cent cards. If you have a loot play in the off turn, I would recommend holding on to it until the very last second if you want to use it for gaining cents. The possibility of having a good response ready is enough to deter some players from trifling in your business, so it's always good to have, or pretend to have, a good response at hand. 4 cents really isn't that much better than 3, so it's also going in C tier. I swear to Christ these will get more interesting soon. Just wait till I get past the cent cards. Clearly nickels are good loot cards to play, it's 5 cents, have a treasure, B tier, moving on. Finally, the last cent loot card for now. The dime is an obviously good card. Gaining 10 cents allows you to instantly buy a treasure, which is why you will mostly see this played as soon as someone gets it. Having money to spend is always a plus in almost any game, and 4 souls is no different. If the soul of greed is in your game, players may not instantly spend their newfound wealth and decide to hoard it instead. Not that it matters much. A tier. Lil Battery is a wildly inconsistent card, due to the fact that it relies on you to have a worthwhile active item to be of use. If you start with an active, this might be a really good card for you, but if you don't, and don't have an active item to your name, this card will likely stagnate in your hand for half the game. One thing you can do if you're stuck holding this dusty old battery is to offer to use it for another player for a few cents. Might as well get something out of it. B tier. The Mega Battery is an alright card. The same rules for Little Battery apply here, but this time it's much more useful if you have more active items to charge, due to the fact it charges all active items. I'd recommend you save this item for the late game, but honestly it's not a big deal if you decide to recharge just one item. By definition, this card goes in A tier, but I haven't really seen it used to its full potential all that much. This is probably because having a lot of good active items to charge is not that common in a chance-based game like 4 Souls. Do what you will, it's a pretty good card, I guess. Bomb is one of the most useful and versatile loot cards in the game, and I'm pretty sure everyone knows it. Being able to deal the damage to a monster allows you to finish off risky fights, and being able to deal damage to players allows you to threaten low health players, or just kill them if they've recently taken damage. It's no surprise to anyone that Bomb goes in A tier, it's just so useful, man. Golden Bomb is just bomb on roids. You can use it to one-shot a lot of soul-having bosses, or instantly kill players. There's not much else to say about this beast other than to make sure you use this powerhouse wisely. There's only 1 gold bomb, don't waste it. S tier. Butterbean is a card that sees little use in the early game, but rises to become one of, if not the most powerful card in the mid to late game. Butterbean allows you to cancel a loot play or use of an item, meaning it is the perfect defensive responsive card for any situation. If you get your hands on a Butterbean, save it, because I guarantee eventually that card will serve you well. Easy S tier. Dice shards are mostly used as a second chance when you get a bad roll. Whether it works out is up to chance, but remember, if you're feeling aggressive, you can use it to alter other players' rolls if they get something good, and you kinda don't want them to get something good. In all, it's a totally average loot card. B tier. The money pill will at best get you 7 cents if you roll a 5 or 6, but if you roll a 1 or 2, it'll lose you 4 cents. If you roll in the middle, you'll get 4, making this pill basically a risky 4-cent loot card. You're more likely to win with it than you are to lose, and since 4 cents is about how much a loot card is worth, I'll put it in C tier along with the 4-cent card. Remember, all pills become significantly better if you have a way to modify dice rolls. The red pill will either get you an additional health or damage point till the end of turn, or deal 1 damage to you. This pill, like all pills, is risky, but due to the fact that the first 2 outcomes are both equally good instead of one being better than the other, this pill usually performs better than other pills. B tier. The loot pill is honestly not that good. The issue with this pill to me is the fact that its lesser outcome is to gain 1 loot card. You still have the same amount of loot cards you had before if you get this, so you basically just used a loot play to re-roll your pill card. Obviously gaining 3 loot cards is great, and losing 1 sucks, but this pill is simply too risky to get anywhere past C tier. Sorry. The Soul Heart is another fantastic common loot card. Being able to prevent a point of damage a player might take is especially useful because usually that player is you. This card can be used in both combat to survive a failed roll, or as a response to someone or something trying to deal lethal damage to you in the off turn. All around, this is a fantastic card to keep on hand. A tier. The Fool is a powerful late game card that, when played, instantly ends the current turn. Because of this card is kinda seen as the ultimate screw you type deal. I've seen players lose games just because the second their turn started, someone else played this thing and absolutely ruined whatever they had planned. This card should only be played when absolutely necessary, as its effect can stop other players from winning games. Easy S tier. The Magician allows you to change a roll into any number you want. While you could use this for attacking, I would recommend saving it for cards like Pandora's Box or Experimental Treatment, where it's very unlikely you will get your desired result. Despite it being extremely useful in these situations, at the end of the day, it's still just a single roll, so it gets A tier. The High Priestess can be devastating if you don't roll a 1 or a 2. I've seen this thing one-shot mega bosses and win the game instantly, and I've also seen this thing deal 1 damage and fall flat on its face. This card will usually deal a massive amount of damage, 2 or more, but sometimes you won't get what you want and that can suck. Still, it's more likely than not that this card will always perform well. S tier. The Empress gives you a handy attack buff of +1 dice roll and +1 damage. This usually means you'll probably kill whatever you're attacking. Due to the dice roll increase, this is best used against higher dice roll monsters. I'm not going to go into it here, but what really makes this card is the dice roll increase. Making yourself more likely to hit things is probably the best thing you can do for yourself combat-wise, so this gets an S tier. The Emperor allows you to search 5 cards into the monster deck and throw away 4 of them and put 1 back on top. You can use this to find the perfect monster to attack, give the next player to attack the deck some trouble, or to throw away some undesirable curses or events. This one's going in B tier because it isn't guaranteed to help you like some of the other cards, but it's still most of the time quite useful. The Hierophant allows you to prevent the next instance of up to 2 damage to a monster or player this turn. This means you can use it to protect yourself or a monster from up to 2 damage at one time. This makes it better to use on higher attack monsters. Other than the fact that it can be used to prevent damage to monsters, meaning you can use it to hinder fellow players, there isn't much else to say about this. This gets an S tier. The Lovers gives a player 2 additional health for this turn. You may think this sounds like an upgrade to the Hierophant, as having 2 health is obviously better than preventing an instance of up to 2 damage once. But keep in mind you can't use this to prevent damage to monsters, meaning you'll mostly be using this on yourself. Not much else to say here. S tier yet again. The Chariot gets you an additional damage and health for the current turn, and that's all it does. There's really not too much to go into here. This is a really damn good card. S tier. Justice allows you to choose a player and gain loot cards and cents until you have the same amount that they do. This is best used to catch up to other players, or to get in on someone who's doing really well at any given time. This card is obviously not as useful when you are in the lead, but all around it's still a pretty good card nonetheless. A tier. The Hermit allows you to look 5 cards deep into the treasure deck, discard 4 of them, and leave 1 on top. This is best used when you plan on buying a random treasure, as you can choose which from the 5 would help you out the most. This is probably the best of the look-through deck cards, but other than that, I don't really have too much to say about the Hermit. A tier, it's a good card. Wheel of Fortune is an alright card, I suppose. You can roll to gain a variety of effects, half of them good and half of them bad. Try to aim for a 3, 5, or a 6 when using this card. This is another card that becomes better when you have a dice modifier, so keep that in mind. Most of the time though, this card is really nothing special. B tier. Strength gives you an extra damage and an extra attack for the current turn when used, which can be extraordinarily useful. Being able to attack twice gives you the opportunity to kill 2 monsters in one turn, which can net you more rewards, and more importantly, the possibility of more souls. Whether you succeed in those 2 attacks is up to chance like always, but the extra damage definitely helps. S tier, easy. The Hanged Man is always a nice card to see. It allows you to check the top card of every deck and toss any of them that you don't like and draw 2. The draw 2 is what really puts this card up a notch. Not only do you gain knowledge of what cards will be next in play across the board, but if you don't like the loot card you're about to draw, you can toss it and gain something different. An all-around great loot card. A tier. Death does exactly what you think it does, kills a player. Death is another card that you'll mostly see in the late game and is usually used to stop a quickly advancing player from winning the game. Being able to instantly kill a player is always powerful, but like many powerful cards, it can be halted by the all-powerful Butterbean. Beware, S tier. Temperance is really not a good loot card. You can choose to take damage in exchange for 4 cents, or 2 damage in exchange for 8, but honestly, foregoing extremely specific situations, why would I want to do that? Why would I take a whole damage for what is essentially a 4-cent loot card? And why would I kill myself for 8? The only time I see this as useful is when playing either Psycho Gorman or the Dauntless. Other than that, this card is D tier, not good. The Devil allows you to sacrifice an item you control in exchange for the ability to steal an item from a player or the shop. The shop function is rarely used. This is mostly used to make aggressive plays on other players. Stealing a good item from someone can win you games, but remember, they will hate you for it. You stole their shit, what did you think was gonna happen? Despite all this, the ability to steal items from others is rare, making this an easy S tier card. And remember, trinkets count as items. You can sacrifice them, and you should! The tower kinda sucks, but I'm pretty sure you already knew that. It has a 1 in 3 chance of dealing damage to all monsters, but usually this card ends up doing the other 2 things, hurting or killing everyone. This thing is mostly used as a last resort, and not a good one at that. D tier. The stars is flippin' amazing, but I'm pretty sure you already knew that. Something as simple as gaining a free treasure really doesn't need much of an argument to why it's A tier. The moon allows you to look 5 cards deep into the loot deck and throw away 4 of them, leaving 1 on top. This card is usually used just before someone loots, in order to gain the best card there. It can help you find some pretty handy loot cards, but sometimes you'll just dig up a pile of trash and toss it all at the bottom, helping everyone but you. B tier. The sun is king of the late game. Seeing a stacked player pull this thing out is always a death sentence for everyone else, because you know he's going to get something out of it, almost guaranteed. It's a card that's more effective the stronger the user is, so keep that in mind. If you can, Butterbean this. The amount of work a good player can get done with this card is staggering, hence why using it puts it at the bottom of the deck instead of the discard. Obvious S tier. Judgment simply forces the player with the most souls to discard 1 of them. This card is best used when a player has killed 1 mega boss and has no other souls. This forces them to discard not 1, but 2 souls, and that really stings. You should still use it if someone gets more souls than you. They'll hate you for it, but there can only be 1 winner. Damn it, that winner better be you! The World is a card that's almost always useful. It allows you to take a look at everyone's hand and loot too. Looking at people's hands to know what they have is an extremely powerful move to make, as it can tell you what each player might be planning, what responses they might have, and what moves you should make to prevent them. The only time I wouldn't use this is when other players don't have a lot of loot cards, but even then, you never know, and there's only one way to be sure. S tier. Dagaz is one of the only cards in the game that can destroy curses, and some players will hold on to this card until a curse appears, because of that one game they were kept from winning by a pesky curse. Newer players will tend to use this for the prevented damage, which is honestly equally valid. You won't get a curse every game, but god does it feel good to nix it when you have this card. A tier. Ehwaz basically rerolls the monster slots. Useful if you don't like what's there, but remember, you can't really use it when anyone's attacking. Not much else to say here. B tier. Holy shit! Blank Rune! Everyone loves Blank Rune. Blank Rune, fun for the whole family. Gifts for all. Whoopee! Just don't roll a 3. Or everyone fucking dies, so you know. A tier. The powers of penny and little battery combine to give you a penny that recharges an item. No refunds. B tier. The purple pill is a bit weird. It can recharge all items, give all monsters -1 dice roll for the turn, or basically make it to where you can't attack anything for the rest of the turn. The positive effects aren't similar to each other at all, but the middle effect is pretty strong, so B tier, I guess. Credit card is basically just a shop item for free. I can't hate on it, it certainly is good, but it's technically worse than the dime due to the fact that you have to get a shop item with it. A tier. Holy card prevents the death of a player and ends their turn, if applicable, much like the Holy Mantle. It's a great save me, but it does end your turn, so it's not absolutely the best thing to use to save your life. It's like a last resort type card, you know. Still, A tier. Life save is a life save. Two of Diamonds, known commonly as the "Oh, I got Soul of Greed now." One of the best cards in the game if you have a higher amount of sense. The card's effectiveness increases the more money you have, since it doubles all money you have, which is good, but it means the card is really not worth it if you don't have much cash on hand. Nonetheless, it has a lot of potential, so A tier. The Joker not only allows you to look at a player's hand, but it also allows you to steal a card from them. This is best used on players with a boatload of cards in their hands, as you'll have a wider selection to choose from. Even without this stolen card, being able to know what cards a player has is always fantastic information, you know, whether they like it or not. S tier. Yera is almost always an amazing card. Being able to double the amount of loot you have is always more powerful than doubling money, due to how much more loot cards are worth than money is. So using Yera at lower amounts of loot cards is still helpful. Lone pennies can't do anything, but lone loot cards can be anything. Yera is an easy S tier. The white pill is another weird one, because other than the pill doing nothing, this has no downside. But also, like the previous purple pill, its effects don't really match up. It either acts as a pseudo butterbean for loot cards, or puts every other player down a loot card. The effects not being related knocks this thing down to C tier. It's too specific and chance-based a card to do better. Come on. The spotted pill is actually really good. It can either reroll one of your items, reroll any item, or reroll all of your items. Each of these situations are common to come across, and although the reroll all of your items is supposed to be the negative outcome, I can't help but see this thing as something that could be positive for a good amount of time. Sometimes you have shit items, and if you do, this pill might change your fortunes. A tier. The black pill is kinda not that good. It'll either deal a damage to you, a monster, or a player, and most of the time you'll want to deal damage to a monster. It's not likely you'll also want to deal damage to a player, meaning your chances of getting a favored outcome with this card are near always 1 in 3. It's just too situational. C tier. The card can be a game changer, depending on what items are in play. This card could copy something like 2020 or Godhead and give you a awesome use out of it. Or you could have no active items in play and just not use it at all ever, so who knows. Due to its situationality, it's gonna have to be B tier. The get out of jail free card is the ultimate late game shield. If you want absolutely nobody to mess with you on your turn, lay this thing down and watch the results. Nobody will be able to respond to a thing you do if this resolves, so if you're about to make a risky play, lay this thing down. Remember though, you can't ask for any help once this thing hits the table, so be prepared. A tier. Answers allows you to look 4 cards deep in any deck and rearrange them in any order. This is great for staying ahead of the curve, and due to its versatility, it's going in S tier. I've already explained why looking through a deck is great, so there's really nothing new to say here. Perthrow allows you to reroll an item. Keep in mind it says an item, not one of your items. While you could use this to reroll an item you have, you could also use it to reroll a good item someone else has. A fantastic, versatile card to have. A tier. Black Rune is more of a pill than a rune, but luckily most of its effects are pretty good. You can either deal 1 damage to all monsters, giving you a head start on whatever you might attack, reroll an item, which we just talked about, or discard your hand and loot 3. Normally that last one is going to be the bad outcome, but if you've got yourself a not so good hand, that outcome may not be that bad. It's overall on the better side of pill-like cards. A tier. A lot of people might be surprised by my ranking on this card, because I don't actually think this is like an S tier card. A lot of people say this card is really, really good, but honestly, I don't think they're reading it right. Gold key allows you to make as many attacks on the deck as you want. The key word here is deck, not slots. Attacking the deck is obviously risky because you don't know what's going to appear. But of course, if you have the strength, the health to, back you up, it'll be great. The issue is, blindly attacking the monster deck is not the best strategy. It can lead to your downfall. Because of this, gold key gets B tier. There's really not that much to say about the sack. It's just a good card. You play it, you loot 3, that's it. Nothing else to say. A tier. Lucky Penny is a great card to use when you see something with a hefty reward, like 3 loot or a treasure. Using it nets you a penny, but also the fact that all rewards are double until the turn ends. It's not a guarantee you'll be able to kill the monster and get those sweet double rewards, but if you do, you will rake it in. A tier. Sticky Nickel is a meme card. You might get 5 cents, you might not. It's pretty funny, but that's kind of all it is. C tier. Mega Bomb is kind of just a weaker gold bomb. It's still pretty good, and probably also S tier. I mean, it's safe 2 damage, that's great. It's just a little, boring. Use it to kill players, finish off big bosses, whatever. It's 2 damage, great. S tier. The Black and White Pill is another banger, honestly. The outcomes are all basically good, as because it states you loot 3 before putting any cards back on top of the loot deck. It means you can, in theory, loot 3 and put the same 3 back in any order if you don't like them. Each option only gets better, and if you use the White Pill with this mindset, things will go well for you. A tier.
Pills allows you to roll 3 times to gain either 1 damage or health until the end of turn at the risk of taking 1 damage if you roll a 5 or 6. This pill usually ends up doing great unless you roll a 5 or 6 twice. A tier!
Blackheart is a very interesting card to use. When you prevent a damage with Blackheart, it basically forces everyone at the board to make sure whoever had the damage prevented does not die. It's an oddly aggressive card for a defensive card. Due to the fact you can use it to just kill other players too, this gets an S tier for dat versatility. Ace of Diamonds is usually a pretty big jump in coins for whoever uses it. Again, it depends on the situation, but it can net a player a pretty swanky amount of cash. A tier. Emergency Contact is a great card for both aggressive plays and escapes. Using it cancels an attack on a monster and puts the card being attacked at the bottom of the deck, basically deleting it from the game. You can use this to back out of a fight or delete a monster that would have really helped another player if they killed it. A very useful and versatile card, S tier. 2 of Spades is almost always a phenomenal card. It allows you to choose another player and loot for each loot card he has in his hand. This usually allows you to catch up to other players if you're falling behind, and can occasionally net you a Soul of Gluttony. This card is almost always of use, due to how unlikely it is that every other player will have low amounts of loot cards. S tier. Al just basically says, "Don't touch my stuff!" to all other players. While this is mostly used as a defensive response to any pesky treasure thieves, you can also use it to avoid paying the treasure portion of the death penalty. Stay smart. A tier. Burkano allows you to reroll an item, but the item is rerolled into an item from the shop. This can be useful if there's a shop item you really need, or if both shop items suck and you want to screw someone else over. It's still kind of a worse per throw most of the time though. B tier. Hagalaz allows you to look 5 cards deep in either the monster or room deck, rearrange them, and then discard both the active monster and room. This is best used on the room deck in my opinion, as cards that affect rooms are rare, and you never know what helpful rooms you might encounter. A tier. Dad's Note allows you to pull up to 3 monsters from the discard and put them back in play. This card is useful if someone has killed an easy monster with a good reward and you want a piece of that. Otherwise, this card really isn't that useful. B tier. The Key allows you to either make an additional attack this turn, or put the top card of the monster deck in a slot not being attacked. This means you can use it to either make an extra attack, or you can use it to make a safe attack. It's a pretty nice and versatile card for attacking. A tier. Magic Marker allows you to change a number in the effect text of a card in play, or loot being played by 1 until the end of turn. This is incredibly versatile for a myriad of reasons that, honestly, I don't really want to explain. But next time you play a game, look at every card's effect text for some numbers. I guarantee you'll find some stuff you wish you could change to your liking. A tier. Demon form gives 2+ damage until the end of turn. Short, simple, S tier. This card is fantastic. Let me make this crystal clear. If you have a shitload of loot cards, this is the best card in the game, period. The cost of sacrificing your hand is obviously immense, but not only dealing 1 damage for each card, but being able to divide the damage among monsters or players any way you want is fucking insane. This card is absolutely incredible and has won me at least 2 games. One's on this channel! Even making small plays with this card is abundantly useful. This card gets SS tier. Use this card. Bible Thump is an amazing card to use if somebody died this turn. When used, you gain 2 loot cards, but you gain an additional 2 for each player who died. Gaining 4 loot cards from 1 loot play is flat out fantastic. That needs to be retaken. Fuck. Is flat out fantastic. S tier card. You just have to use it at the right time. Blanks is commonly used to instantly obliterate high dice roll and high damage monsters. One such example is Mother. You can attack until you take damage, then reflect the damage and instantly kill whatever you're attacking, in this case, Mother. You don't even have to use it on what you're attacking. You can just use this to hurt players too. So, good lord, this thing is phenomenal. S tier. Cheap, cheap, cheap is just annoying to play with as it is to say. It turns a player into a chicken, and until the start of their next turn, all players must attack them on their turns if able. This is used to stall all players on the board and severely cripple one, as 3 dice roll is not a very hard roll to hit. It's probably better than I give it credit for, but lord, nobody likes this card. A tier. Chunk of Amber allows you to roll a dice, and whatever you roll, you get double that amount in cents. Not much to explain, due to the risk factor, it's probably about B tier. It can get you a lot of cash, but can also get you not a lot of cash. That's it. Cow on a trash form is a bit like Cheap Cheap Cheap, but less annoying. It transforms a player into Cow, who has no abilities, and all their items turn into trash, which also have no abilities. This basically prevents a player from doing anything until their next turn. It can be pretty useful for stopping a powerful player from messing with you, but beyond that, it has no other uses. A tier. Greed Butt is a card that almost no new player uses correctly. Greed Butt becomes a monster that must be attacked by the active player when it's played. This basically is used to make a player waste an attack. New players see the 13 cents this card offers and will play this and attack it on their turn, thinking the 13 cents is worth attacking the 8/3/1 monster. To be honest, it usually isn't, unless there's a super good item in the shop. I beg you, save this card for the late game. You'll thank me when things get tense. Jeez, A tier. Jester allows you to reroll any amount of items you control. That's it. I've already discussed how great rerolls are, so I have nothing else to say. S tier. Murder allows players to be attacked with 4 dice roll until the end of turn. If the murder is successful, the card is returned to the hand of the player who played it. To be honest, I've never seen this card used effectively. Not once. In theory, this card can make aggressive plays on players who are ahead, but the lack of rewards other than the player's downfall means you usually won't see this played unless you're really late into a game. B tier. Which is a jack-of-all-trades loot card that allows you to deal 1 damage, or add or subtract 1 from a roll, or Butterbean. All these situations are common to come by, so this goes in A tier. Just overall a good card to have. Alt Death kills everybody. You can use this to grab a Soul of Wrath if enough players have already died, or just to kill anyone for any time you might want to do that. You will be killing yourself when you play this though, so remember that. S tier. Alt Stars gives every player a treasure, and then the player who used it gains an extra one. Basically, this card helps everyone at the table, but helping you a little more than everyone else. It's not at all a bad card, but using it risks giving other players a really good item, so A tier. Butt Penny allows you to gain a cent and then roll. Roll for no effect. It is an official roll though, so I guess if you have some kind of win an X's roll type card, you could, maybe land a roll with that. Or add a counter to Isaac's Tears. Doesn't really save it from F tier, sorry. The Pheromone Pill gets you an item from a random player. It's always fun to steal an item, but the fact that you don't know who you'll be stealing it from or what item they'll fork over means it's a little bit inconsistent. B tier for the lack of control and, inconsistency I just mentioned. At long last, the second tier list is done. However, you may have noticed I didn't cover the trinkets. After a YouTube poll, I was asked to cover them separately, which will be done next week. Feels great to finally be back making stuff again, and if you enjoyed the video, do remember to like and subscribe. I've been Raider Weish. Take care.